The cockpit doors slammed open like a gunshot in a confessional, and the captain's voice boomed over the intercom, slicing through the recycled air. "Sir, if you don't unhand that boy right now, we're turning this bird around and you'll both be walking." Blake's heart jackknifed in his chest as he watched his little brother Alex freeze mid-kiss. Jamie's lips still brushing his in that innocent, desperate way that said "I love you" without words, until the flight attendant yanked them apart like they were rabid dogs. In the suffocating hush that followed, Blake surged to his feet, his voice cracking like thunder. "You touch him again, and I'll make sure every passenger on this flight knows what cowards you really are." The plane hadn't even taxied off the gate at JFK, the engines humming low like a threat, when it all unraveled. Blake slumped back into his middle seat, the armrest digging into his ribs like a reminder of how trapped he felt, not just in this aluminum tube hurtling toward LAX, but in his own skin. In this country that preached freedom louder than a televangelist but delivered it in scraps. He was 22. A poli-sci major at NYU scraping by on loans and barista shifts. The kind of guy who quoted Baldwin in his essays but choked on coming out to his own reflection some mornings. Alex, his 19-year-old shadow, sat wedged against the window with Jamie beside him, their fingers laced under a shared blanket like a secret pact. Blake envied that ease, the way Alex wore his queerness like a badge, unapologetic and bright, while Blake buried his under layers of sarcasm and late-night runs along the Hudson. It started harmless enough, a turbulence warning, the cabin lights dimming to that sickly amber glow that made everyone look like ghosts. Alex leaned into Jamie, whispering something that ended in a soft laugh, then a kiss. Not some porn star grind, just a brush of lips. The kind straight couples dropped like confetti on every flight Blake had ever been on. But the flight attendant, a pinched-face woman named Karen in her starched uniform, zeroed in like a heat-seeking missile. "Excuse me," she hissed, her voice all Midwestern frost. "This is a family flight. Save it for the Mile High Club on your own dime." Jamie pulled back first, his cheeks flushing that adorable pink Blake had teased him about 100 times. But Alex just stared her down, his green eyes, mirror images of their moms, flashing with that fire Blake wished he had. "We're not hurting anyone," Alex said. Simple as that. His voice steady even as his hand trembled in Jamie's. The woman didn't blink. She radioed the captain. Her words clipped and coded, disruptive passengers in 22A and B. Possible intoxication. Need removal. Blake's blood turned to lava. He unbuckled before he could think, towering over the row at 6'2", his track-honed frame filling the aisle like a barrier. "What the hell? They're kissing." "You gonna boot every teenager who does that?" The cabin stirred, whispers rippling like wind through dry grass. A few smartphones sneaking out for the show. An older guy in a MAGA cap 2 rows up muttered, "Fucking fairies ruining everything," loud enough to carry. And Blake felt it like a slap. The old wound reopening. The captain materialized then, all broad shoulders and airline bravado, flanked by security in ill-fitting blazers. "Policy," he grunted, avoiding eye contact. "Inappropriate public display. We can't have that on board. Inappropriate." The word hung there, bloated with implication, echoing every slur Blake had swallowed since high school in suburban Ohio, where "gay" was both punchline and prison sentence. Alex stood, Jamie clutching his sleeve, and Blake stepped between them, his voice dropping low. "Lethal. This is discrimination." You know it. I know it. Call the gate agent. We're not moving. But they did move, shoved. Really, down the jet bridge like criminals in cuffs. The door sealing behind them with a pneumatic hiss that sounded final. Like a coffin lid. The gate area was a zoo, harried families. Suited execs barking into phones. The AC blasting cold enough to numb the rage boiling in Blake's veins. Alex collapsed into a row of plastic chairs, burying his face in his hands. Jamie murmuring comforts that cracked like glass. Blake paced, fists balled, dialing their dad with shaking fingers. Richard Harlan wasn't just any father, he was the Harlan. The civil rights attorney who'd shredded tobacco giants in courtrooms from D.C. to Denver. The man who'd marched with Stonewall vets and buried their mom under a rainbow flag-draped casket 5 years back. Dad, Blake choked out when the line connected. They kicked us off. For being us. Richard's voice came through like gravel over bourbon. Calm but edged with the fury of a man who'd seen too many injustices to flinch. Stay put. I'm booking the next flight out. And Blake? Don't say another word to them. This airline's about to learn what grounded really means. The wait stretched into hours. The airport a limbo of fluorescent purgatory. Blake bought shitty coffee from a vending machine. The steam rising like ghosts of what-ifs. What if he'd pulled Alex aside before boarding? Warned him to tone it down? What if Jamie hadn't come out to their family last Christmas? Sparking that dinner table blowout where Uncle Ted called it a phase? Guilt gnawed at Blake's gut. Sharper than hunger. He wasn't out, not fully. Alex knew. Had caught him once with a grinder hookup in their dorm. But Dad? That was a bridge Blake kept burning in his dreams. Terrified of the weight of disappointment in those steel-gray eyes. Jamie paced now. His lanky frame coiled tight. Blonde curls damp with sweat. This is bullshit, he spat. Kicking a pillar. We're not animals. We paid for these seats same as anyone. Alex pulled him down. Their foreheads touching in that intimate way that made Blake's chest ache with a mix of protectiveness and envy. Hey, Alex said softly. It's gonna be okay. Dad's got this. But his voice wavered. And Blake saw the crack. The boy who'd come out at 16. Fists flying at schoolyard bullies. Now fraying at the edges. By midnight, Richard arrived like a storm front. Trench coat flapping. His salt and pepper hair wild from the red-eye. He enveloped them in bear hugs that smelled of aftershave and resolve. Then turned to the airline desk with the precision of a surgeon. I want names. Logs. Video from the jet bridge. And the CEO's direct line. If you please. The agent, a nervous kid barely out of community college, stammered apologies. But Richard wasn't having it. He was already on his phone, barking orders to associates back in D.C., pull the manifest. Check for priors on that crew. And get me FAA regs on passenger removal, stat. They piled into a cab to a midtown hotel. The city lights streaking past like accusations. In the dim lobby bar. Over whiskeys Richard insisted on, for the shock. Boys, the story spilled out. Raw and ragged. Blake nursed his glass. The burn steadying him as Alex recounted the attendant's glare. The captain's grunt? The snickers from fellow passengers. Felt like we were contagious, Alex said. His voice small. Jamie nodded. Tears streaking his freckled cheeks. Like loving each other is a crime. Richard leaned forward. His face etched with lines that told stories of lost cases and won souls. It's not a crime. It's their fear. And fear? That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. He outlined the plan like a war map: wrongful ejection, emotional distress, violation of the Airline Deregulation Act. But beneath the strategy, Blake caught the flicker, the pain of a father who'd shielded his sons from the world's ugliness only to watch it crash through anyway. "You did nothing wrong," Richard said, clasping their hands. "Proud of you both." Every damn day. That night, in the queen bed he shared with Alex, Jamie bunked with Dad. Blake lay awake, the city's hum seeping through the walls. His mind replayed the jet bridge, the shove, the stairs, the way his stomach dropped like freefall. But deeper, it unearthed older shames: the summer at camp when a counselor's joke about his limp wrist had him scrubbing toilets for a week, the prom date with Sarah that ended in a panic attack in the parking lot because her hand on his thigh felt like chains. He rolled over, whispering to the dark, "When do I get to be brave like you, Lex?" Dawn broke gray and unforgiving, the kind of New York morning that promised rain and regret. Richard was up first, commandeering the hotel's business center like a general's tent. Laptops blooming with legal briefs. Blake showered hot enough to scald, the water sluicing over his shoulders as he traced the faint scars from track falls, reminders of pushing his body to outrun his heart. Emerging in jeans and a threadbare Mets tee, he found Alex and Jamie tangled on the couch, Jamie's head in Alex's lap, both scrolling news feeds for any buzz on the incident. "Nothing yet," Alex sighed. "World's too busy with the election cycle." Richard looked up, eyes bloodshot but sharp. "Give it time. We're filing today, class action potential if we dig up similar stories." He paused, softening. "Blake, walk with me." They hit the streets, the wind whipping off the East River, carrying the tang of diesel and possibility. Father and son fell into step, an old rhythm from childhood hikes in the Smokies, before Mom's cancer turned their world to ash. "You're quiet," Richard said finally, lighting a rare cigarette, his tell for stress. Blake shrugged, kicking a pebble into the gutter. "Just processing. What if this blows back on you? Your practice? The firm. Screw the firm." Richard exhaled smoke like a dragon. "This is personal. You think I clawed my way through law school? Took those pro bono cases for the billable hours? Son. It's for days like this." He stopped, facing Blake under a scaffold shadow. "And you, I've seen the way you look at Alex and Jamie. Like you're on the outside looking in. Talk to me." The words lodged in Blake's throat, thick as tar. He stared at his sneakers, scuffed from pounding pavement. "It's not that simple. Alex owns it. I hide. Grinder hookups in alleys, deleting texts before anyone sees. What if," he broke off. The what-ifs avalanching, rejection, dismissal, the Harlan name tarnished. Richard crushed the cig under his heel, pulling Blake into a rough embrace. "What if nothing? You're my boy. Fit. Whatever, you're Harlan blood." Fierce as hell. The hug lingered, paternal and profound, cracking something in Blake's chest. For the first time, he let himself lean in, not as the protector, but as the protected. Back at the hotel, the war room buzzed. Richard's team had unearthed gold, forum posts from queer travelers, complaints buried in Yelp reviews, A pattern of disruptive ejections skewing heavily towards same-sex affection. Sky-high airlines, Richard growled. Pacing. They've got a rep, budget cuts means skimpy training. Bigoted crews slipping through. By noon, the complaint was drafted. A 40-page beast citing everything from Title VII to the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause. But the real spark ignited when a passenger from the flight leaked video, grainy cell footage of the kiss. The confrontation. Blake's stand. It hit Twitter like a Molotov, kicked for kissing trending by lunch. Activists piling on with stats, 1 in 5 LGBTQ flyers harassed. Per a Lambda legal report. Reporters swarmed the lobby. Mics thrust like spears. Richard fielded them like a pro. His soundbite surgical, this isn't about one flight. It's about a system that polices love based on who it's between. Blake watched from the sidelines, a knot of pride and terror twisting in his gut. Alex and Jamie, buoyed by the attention, started a live stream, raw. Alex's voice steady, we just wanted to hold hands. Fly home. Why is that a threat? Donations poured in for their legal fund. Messages from kids in red states whispering thank you. But amid the roar, Blake felt exposed. His own silent screaming. That evening, as rain lashed the windows, Jamie pulled Blake aside in the hallway. Hey. You okay? Jamie's eyes, soft brown and searching, held no judgment, just that quiet empathy that made him perfect for Alex. Blake leaned against the ice machine. Its hum a white noise veil. Honestly, freaking out. This visibility. It's everything I want and fear. Jamie nodded, clapping his shoulder. Alex says you're the strongest guy he knows. But strength isn't hiding. But it's showing up. The words landed soft. But they stirred something, a flicker of heat. Not romantic, but kindred. For a moment, Blake imagined it, coming out loud, linking arms with them on some pride march. The world watching not with hate, but wonder. Night too blurred into strategy sessions and takeout tie. The suite a cocoon of takeout boxes and tension. Richard paced circuits, quoting precedents like scripture, while Alex sketched protest signs on napkins, bold letters screaming love isn't disruptive. Blake contributed footnotes, his poli-sci brain mapping the cultural shift, how this could ripple into policy, force airlines to train crews on bias. But privately, doubts gnawed. What if the video backfired? What if the captain spun it as safety and public opinion flipped? Sleep evaded him again. The bed a battlefield. He slipped out at 3 a.m., wandering the lobby in socks. The night clerk nodding sympathetically. Under the lobby's grand piano, he met eyes with a stranger, a guy in his mid-20s, rumpled button-down, nursing a ginger ale. Rough night? The guy asked, voice warm with a southern lilt. Maybe Atlanta. Blake slid onto the bench. You could say that. Very easy. Unforced, about the flight fiasco, the guy had been 3 rows back, filming the whole thing. His name was Eli, a journalist for The Advocate, in town chasing leads on queer rights. Saw you stand up, Eli said, his gaze steady, appreciative. Brave as hell. Heat crept up Blake's neck, not shame, but spark. Eli's hand brushed his on the piano keys. Accidental but electric. And for the first time in years, Blake didn't pull away. They swapped numbers as dawn pinked the skyline. Eli's parting grin a promise. Call me when the dust settles. Coffee's on me. The lawsuit dropped like a bomb at 9 a.m. Richard's press conference in the hotel ballroom packed with cameras flashing like strobe lights in a fever dream. Blake stood offstage with Alex and Jamie, the air thick with perfume and purpose, his pulse sinking to the chant of reporters. Mr. Harlan. Intent to settle? Richard, tie straight as an arrow, leaned into the mic. Settle? We're dismantling their playbook. Sky-high bigotry ends here. For my sons. For every queer kid afraid to hold a hand in public. The room erupted, questions flying like shrapnel. But Blake's world narrowed to the tremor in his fingers. The weight of eyes on him. Back in the suite, adrenaline crashed into exhaustion. Alex crashed on the pullout. Jamie curled beside him like a shield, their breaths sinking in sleep's fragile truce. Richard buried himself in depositions, but not before pulling Blake into the bathroom for a quiet word over the sink's running water. You're carrying this heavy, son. Talk. Blake gripped the porcelain, knuckles whitening. It's all out there now. The video. People see Alex and Jamie as heroes. I'm the brother in the background. The one who didn't kiss anyone. Richard's reflection met his, lined with understanding. Heroes aren't born in spotlights. They're forged in the dark. You stood first, that's your story. He clapped Blake's back, exiting with a father's unspoken vow. I'll fight for your silence till you're ready to shatter it. Eli texted mid-afternoon, saw the conference. You're a force. Dinner? Neutral ground, Bryant Park. Blake stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Neutral ground. The phrase mocked him. Nothing felt neutral anymore. Not with the world's gaze hot on his skin. But the pull was magnetic, a counterweight to the chaos. He typed back, 7? Bring your reporter cynicism, I'll bring mine. Bryant Park shimmered under twilight's mercy. Food trucks steaming with halal carts and crepes. The lawn dotted with afterwork crowds shaking off the grind. Eli waited by the fountain, hands in pockets. His button-down rolled to elbows revealing forearms dusted with dark hair, casual, confident. The kind of guy who turned heads without trying. Harlan, he greeted, grin crooked. Fancy meeting you here. They grabbed falafel wraps from a vendor, settling on a wrought iron bench facing the library's glow. Conversation flowed like the fountain's trickle, Eli dissecting the lawsuit's odds, Harlan versus Goliath, my money's on you. Blake venting the microaggressions, that MAGA guy's slur replaying like a bad loop. Laughter crept in. Tentative at first, Eli's deadpan on airline pretzels, cylindrical hate crimes, cracking Blake's facade. But undercurrents simmered, Eli's knee brushing his, lingering, the way his eyes held Blake's. Not probing, but inviting. You're not out, are you? Eli asked softly, midway through. No judgment, just fact. Blake's fork paused, tahini dripping onto newsprint. Not publicly. Family knows bits. Alex pushes, but he trailed off, the vulnerability raw as road rash. Eli nodded. No pity. I get it. Came out at 17 in Bible Belt, Alabama. Dad still mails conversion therapy pamphlets like they're love letters. He reached over, thumb grazing Blake's wrist, electric, intentional. But hiding? It's a thief. steals your air. The touch ignited something dormant, a warmth pooling low in Blake's belly. He didn't recoil. Instead, he turned his hand palm up, lacing fingers. The lies were calloused, journalists of grounding. They sat like that as stars pricked the sky, the park's hum fading to their breaths. When Eli leaned in, tentative, Blake met him halfway, the kiss soft, exploratory, tasting of cardamom and courage. No jet bridge drama, no leers, just two men reclaiming space in a city that bent but never broke them. Back at the hotel, euphoria warred with dread. Blake slipped in quiet, but Alex was waiting, cross-legged on the bed with a knowing smirk. Park stroll. Spill. Blake flopped beside him, cheeks burning. Met someone. Illy. New. Alex's grin widened, punching his arm. About damn time. Dad's gonna lose his shit, in the good way. But Dawn brought backlash. Sky High's PR machine revved, a statement decrying mischaracterizations, the captain painted as a family man upholding decorum. Trolls swarmed, fake gay trending with memes of Alex's kiss photoshopped into clown noses. Slurs flying like confetti from hell. Blake scrolled in the dim light. Each barb a needle, attention horse. Go back to the parade. His phone buzzed. Eli, ignore the noise. Coffee at mine? 42nd and 8th. Richard caught him at breakfast. Bagel half-eaten. Going somewhere? Blake froze. Lies dying on his tongue. Meeting a source. For the case. Richard's eyes narrowed, then softened. Be safe. And Blake, whatever this is, on it. Life's too short for half measures. The permission, unspoken but ironclad, propelled Blake out the door. Eli's walk-up was a writer's nest, bookshelves groaning under queer-lit and legal tomes, a typewriter on the desk like a relic from Kerouac's Ghost. Coffee brewed strong, black as resolve. And they talked strategy, Eli floating angles for his piece, Blake sketching public opinion shifts. But words gave way to touches, Eli's hand on his knee, Blake's fingers tracing his jaw. The kiss deepened, urgent now, bodies aligning on the sagging couch. Eli's shirt hit the floor, revealing a lean torso inked with a rainbow phoenix rising from flames, defiance etched in skin. Blake's hands explored, hesitant then bold, the room filling with gasps and whispers. It was more than sex, it was sacrament. Eli moved with a tenderness that unraveled Blake. Murmurs of "you're safe" and "I've got you" weaving through the rhythm. Afterward, tangled in sheets smelling of laundry soap and sweat, Blake confessed fragments, the hookups that left him hollow, the fear of losing the Harlan legacy to labels. Eli listened, head on his chest. Legacy's what you build, not inherit. And this, he gestured between them. This is yours. Reality intruded via a call from Alex. Press wants interviews, from you. Like solo. Panic spiked. Visibility meant exposure. The closet door creaking open. Eli squeezed his hand. You've got a voice. Use it. The interview aired that night on CNN. Blake in a borrowed blazer. Lights hot as interrogation. Anchor Anderson Cooper, out icon himself, leaned in. Blake? You were the one who stood up. What was that moment like? Heart hammering. Blake met the lens, terrifying. My brother and his boyfriend, they're brave every day. I was just done watching from the sidelines. This isn't about one flight, it's about saying, we're here. We're human. Love us or leave us alone. The words poured, unscripted, a dam breaking. Applause thundered off camera. But Blake's eyes stung, catharsis? Raw and real. Backlash hit harder. Uncle Ted called. Voice vinegar, dragging the family name through this sodomy circus? Your mother's rolling in her grave. Richard intercepted. His rebuttal a blade. She'd be marching with us. Doors closed. But the wound festered in Blake. Doubt whispering traitor as he scrolled hate mail. Crisis peaked midweek. Sky High countersued for defamation, claiming the video was staged provocation. Richard's war room turned bunker. Depositions flying. Blake testified first. Voice steady under oath, the shove's force. The humiliation's echo. Alex followed. Jamie's hand in his under the table. But the real gut punch came during cross-exam, the airline's lawyer, slick as oil, twisting Blake's words. So, Mr. Harlan, you admit to a history of anonymous encounters? Sounds like provocation on your end. The room spun. Blake's throat closed. The closet's ghosts howling. Richard objected. Judge sustaining. But damage lingered, a smear on his character. His coming out half-baked. That night, alone in the hotel gym, Blake pounded the treadmill till his lungs burned. Sweat blurring tears. Coward. The rhythm accused. Always running. Eli found him post-shower, towel-dried and trembling in the steam room's haze. Saw the depot leak. You okay? Blake shook his head. Words fracturing. They outed me. Twisted it into dirt. Eli pulled him close. Water beating on skin. Not dirt. Truth. And truth? It's your weapon. They made love slow that night. Eli's body a map of affirmation. Mapping scars with lips and light. The turning point crashed in like a wave. A whistleblower. The sky-high mechanic. Leaked internal memos, emails greenlighting discretion advisories for non-traditional couples. Richard pounced. Amending the suit to racketeering levels. Protests bloomed nationwide, queer activists blocking gates at O'Hare. Allies chaining to counters at LAX. Ground the hate trended. Celebrities chiming in, Ellen retweeting Alex's sign. Lil Nas X dropping a diss track snippet. Blake's role evolved. He keynoted a rally in Union Square. 5,000 voices roaring as he gripped the mic. They tried to ground us, for loving loud. But we're taking off. Wings and all. Eli watched from the front row. Pride blazing in his eyes. Post-speech. Amid hugs and high-fives, Blake pulled him into an alley kiss. Public? Defiant. The city's pulse approving. But betrayal lurked. Jamie's phone buzzed during dinner. A text from an ex. Spilling dirt, Jamie had vented post-flight about Blake's jealousy vibes, twisting protectiveness into resentment. Alex confronted over tiramisu. Voice cracking. Is it true? You think we're too much? Jamie flushed, stammering apologies. But the seed sprouted doubt. Blake mediated. Heart splintering, we're all raw here. But secrets? They ground us worse than any airline. The fracture mended fragilely. A late-night circle in the suite, tears. Richard's gruff, families fight dirty, that's how we endure. But Blake lay awake after Eli's texts, lighting his phone. Proud of you, boys. The words anchored him, a lifeline in the storm. Trial week dawned brutal. Manhattan's federal courthouse, a coliseum of marble and malice. Jurors filed in, diverse faces. But Blake caught the flicker of bias in the older white guy's scowl. The young mom's averted gaze. Richard opened strong, projecting the video on screens the size of billboards. The kiss's innocence, the crew's aggression, Blake's roar. This, he thundered, is America 2025, where love is litigated, not liberated. Sky High's defense slithered in, experts on cabin harmony, the captain testifying with teary-eyed piety about protecting families. Cross-exam exposed cracks, his family values, church donated to conversion camps, but the real venom targeted Blake. Your client has a pattern, Your Honor. Anonymous liaisons suggest intent to provoke scandal. Richard dismantled it, subpoenaing Grindr records redacted to anonymity, arguing privacy over prurience. My son is on trial for standing up, not swiping right. Blake took the stand day 3. The box, a confessional under oath. Sweat beaded despite the AC's bite. His Mets tee swapped for a suit that itched like guilt. Describe the moment, Richard prompted gently. Blake leaned into the mic, voice steady as he relived it. The intercom's boom. Alex's flinch. The shove's indignity. It wasn't about the kiss. It was erasure. Like we didn't belong in the sky, or anywhere. Questions probed deeper. His singledom. The hookups. Why hide? The airline lawyer sneered. Blake met his eyes. Unflinching. Fear. But fear's a liar. I'm done listening. The courtroom hushed. A held breath. Jurors leaned in, the mom nodding faintly, the scowler's jaw softening. Off the stand, Eli waited in the hall, pulling him into a broom closet embrace, fierce, firming. You slayed, he murmured, lips brushing ear. Blake clung, the courthouse's echo fading to their heartbeats. But conflict crested that afternoon. Alex cornered him in the witness lounge. Eyes red-rimmed. Jamie's bailing. Says the pressure's too much. Texts me he's out for a while. The words landed like a gut punch. Blake's mind reeled, Jamie's warmth, his steadiness, crumbling under scrutiny. He loves you. This is the fight talking. Alex crumpled, sobs muffled in Blake's shoulder. What if it's me? Too gay? Too loud? Blake held tighter, whispering Baldwin quotes till Alex stilled. You're a revolution in sneakers. He'll come back. Bridget, overhearing, drew them into strategy huddle. Focus. This betrayal? Fuel it. But privately, he confided in Blake over courthouse coffee, bitter as regret. Your mom left mid-chemo once. Thought she was sparing us pain. Hurt like hell. But we rebuilt. Vulnerability from the unbreakable Harlan cracked Blake open further. I'm gay. Fully. Whatever comes. Richard's smile was sunrise. Knew that since you picked show tunes over football. Love you. Wings spread. The trial's high-wire act peaked day 5. Closing arguments. Richard wove narrative like tapestry, personal, Blake stand. Alex's tears. Systemic, memos proving policy. Prophetic, a verdict for Harlan is a verdict for every boarded love. The opposition countered with fearmongering. Disorder in the skies threatens us all. Jurors deliberated 12 hours. The weight of vice on Blake's chest. He paced Central Park with Eli. Autumn leaves crunching underfoot like brittle doubts. What if we lose? Eli stopped him. Hands framing face. You already won. Look at us, flying free. Verdict dropped at dusk. $12 million punitive. Injunction for mandatory bias training. Public apology mandated. The courtroom erupted. Cheers. Richard enveloped in hugs. Cameras swarmed. But Blake zeroed on Alex. Phoning Jamie live on speaker. We're grounded no more. Come home. The pause. Then Jamie's voice. Thick. Flights booking. Love you. Reconciliation. Tentative as first light. Post-verdict haze blurred into victory lap. Op-eds praising Harlan grounds bigotry. Sky-high so resigning amid boardroom bloodbath. Blake's coming-out essay hit the Atlantic. From jet bridge to front lines. Eli editing late nights that dissolved into mornings tangled in his sheets. Romance bloomed slow. Roots deep. Eli's quiet support. Blake's growing boldness. They attended a queer youth mixer. Blake speaking off the cuff. I was thrown off for standing. But I'm landing on my terms. Yet humanity's underbelly lingered. Uncle Ted's funeral pinged weeks later, heart attack. Irony bitter. The family gathered in Ohio rain. Eulogies polite as poison. Ted's widow cornered Blake post-service. He prayed for you boys. But Eli's hand in his under the table. Replied soft but steel. Prayers are free. Acceptance costs more. Richard nodded approval from across the pews. The Harlans united. About. Back in New York. Winter blanketed the city in hush. Blake transferred to Columbia Law. Shadowing Richard's firm. His essays now laced with fire. Alex and Jamie moved in together. Bronx walk-up. Posters of Stonewall heroes on walls, while Blake and Eli claimed Eli's apartment as home base. Eli's phoenix tattoo a talisman over their bed. One snowy eve. Atop the Empire State, tourist trap turned tradition, Blake dropped to one knee. Not with ring but resolve. You grounded me when I was spinning. Marry me? Someday? Eli's laugh was joy incarnate. Pulling him up into a kiss that tasted of forever. Somedays now. Yes. The skyline glittered below. A nation of lights, flawed. Just flying. Blake thought of the jet bridge. The shove that started it all. Not a fall, but a launch. In America's messy heart. Love didn't just survive, it soared. Ungrounded. Unbound. But wait, Richard's final play lingered. Months on. FAA regs tightened. Nationwide protocols for bias response. Sky High rebranded under new ownership. Ads touting all aboard love. The Harlans watched from a DC gala. Toasting with champagne flutes. To grounding the hate, Richard said. Eyes misty. Blake raised his glass. Eli's arm around his waist. Alex and Jamie clinking nearby. And lifting each other. In quiet moments, Blake still felt the echo, the ache of almosts, the sting of slurs. But now, it fueled him, adjunct prof gigs on queer rights, a podcast with Eli dissecting headlines. Humanity won small. Daily, a hand held in public, a kiss unchallenged. No bikiki. Just bittersweet ascent, from thrown off to taking off. Wings mended by those who loved loudest. Epilogue whispers in spring's thaw. A year post-verdict. Blake stands at JFK's gate, irony's wink, boarding a sky-high flight to LA. Eli beside him, their fingers laced open on armrests. No hiding, just presence. The attendant, new face. Trained smile, nods, safe travels. Gentlemen. No frost. No code. Progress. Etched in policy and prayer. Alex and Jamie thrive in their Bronx nest. Adopting a rescue mutt named Harlan, Scrappy. A furred echo of family fire. Richard semi-retires. Penning memoirs that Blake ghost edits. Their bond a bridge of shared silences and sudden confessions. You saved us. Dad, Blake says one whiskey night. Porch swing creaking in Virginia summers. Richard chuckles. Gruff. Meh. You boys did. I just cleared the runway. Eli's book drops, ungrounded, queer skies and the Harlan fight, Blake's forward raw. I was thrown for acting gay. But acting? That's what straights do to fit. I'm real now. And flying. Challenges linger, new bands bubble in statehouses. Trolls tweet eternal, but resilience roots deep. Blake coaches track at a Brooklyn rec center. Spotting queer kids with gentle fire, run toward. Not away. One evening. Post-practice. A boy, 14. Eyes wide earth. Was it scary? Coming out. Blake kneels. Meeting him level, terrifying. But the landing? Worth every bump. Sunset paints the field gold. Blake heading home to Eli's stir-fry and stories. Once litigated, now lives, messy, profoundly American. In this land of contradictions, they don't just survive, they claim the clouds. One defiant kiss at a time.